So here we go. Today is officially the closing lecture, the last lecture of CAT 2022. I intend to discuss the basics once again in a quick mode, in a revision mode. I also intend to share with you the modus operandi, if we may call it so, of the past CAT passages. I've taken some passages from previous year papers, CAT 2007, CAT 2008, CAT 2017, 18, 19, 20. So all of them, there are mixed questions. And we intend to go question by question, identifying the nature of each question and how to operate with a particular question type, so that you can, kind of revise everything in these 2 hours or so, 2-3 hours, whatever it takes. Then the last part of this lecture will basically be general talk, general pointers to keep in mind for the D-Day and pre-exam, post-exam, what to do, what not to do during exam, etc., which comes primarily from my experience of writing this exam for years. So without ado, let's get into it. Okay, this is how we go. I'll give you 2 minutes to answer a question. Only 2 minutes, right? Regardless of whether you have seen the question before or not, we will wait for 2 minutes after sharing a particular screen or a particular question. And then I tell you the smarter way to go about this question maybe, and we kind of revise everything that we have done in this 1 year. Okay, let's begin. Let's start with the almighty main idea question, the main idea approach. I want you to read only the first paragraph. And that too, first paragraph is a little longer, relatively speaking. I want you to read it only 4 or 5 lines. And then I want you to read the last paragraph maybe, and confirm what you have understood, whether the last paragraph is along the same lines. If that be so, answer question number 1. Okay, time's up. Do we have our answers? I have received some responses. In the DM. And I'm glad most of them are right. I'm glad most of them are right. Just one wrong response, others are all right. All right. Okay, so let me do it with you. What have we learned about the main idea question? The main idea is mostly stated in the first two paragraphs or the last paragraph. And if there's a double confirmation, the first paragraph and the last paragraph tell you the same thing, you can pretty much be confident about your main idea and mark the answer and move on. You don't have to read this longish passage to answer question number 1. See me in action now. This is CAT 2008 passage, actual passage. Language is not a cultural artifact that we learn the way we learn to tell time or how the federal government works. So it's not cultural. Instead, it is a distinct piece of biological makeup. Whenever author has a strong argument, such a strong argument in the first 2-3 lines, I will probably not bother to read more. And my next instinctive response and logical response would be to check if this is the same idea in the last 2 lines also, if it is available in the last 2-3 lines also. And if it is so, I can simply mark the answer and move on. I don't have to bother about, I'm doubly sure that this is the answer. This is smart work. This is smart work. Okay, just see me in action now. First 2 lines tell me that author's argument is that language is not cultural. It is not a culturally acquired thing. It is biological. Okay. And the last line, if I want to cross check, finally, since language is the product of a well-engineered biological instinct, we shall see that it is not the nutty barrel of monkeys that entertainer columnists make it out to be. Even the last line talks about the implications of this idea that language is intrinsically biological. It is a well-engineered biological instinct. First and last, complete the circle. Therefore, main idea is going to be along these lines. Which of the following best summarizes the passage? Language is unique to Homo sapiens. I don't think so. It's neither learned nor taught. The focus is not on the not part, whether it is learned or taught. The focus of the passage is on what it is part rather than what it is not. Language is not a cultural invention or artifact as it is made out. Again, correct. Option 3 is right. But the focus is not on what it is not, rather what it is, because the last line says it is biological and not cultural. Option 4, language is instinctive ability of human beings. Instinctive ability is a paraphrase for biological, which pretty much encapsulates the essence of the passage. If you have worked on your skills of paraphrasing, D is the answer, 4 is the answer, even without reading the entire passage, as all of you figured out. Maybe some of you have seen the passage before. That is where the bias is coming from. Maybe you have not, but option 4 is indeed the correct answer. And today we are going to be happy about correct answers, regardless of whether we have seen the questions before or not. Let us go in with a positive frame of mind. Dil khush rakhne ko ghalib khayal acha hai. So whatever. Option 4 is the answer. Got it, everybody? Now, while we are at the main idea thing, can you answer for me question number 2 as well? Using only your logical ability and not reading. I don't want you to read more. Just use your logical ability to answer question number 2 if you can. What your response would be? All correct answers up to this point. Barring one. All correct answers, barring one. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct, guys. 5 is going to be the correct answer. How? The main idea itself tells me Author tries to correct a misconception that language is not a cultural artifact, and his point of view is that it is biological. Therefore, what is not popular wisdom? If he is correcting this idea, and if he is asserting that it is biological, then it cannot be part of the popular wisdom. Popular wisdom should be cultural artifact wala idea. The popular wisdom should be cultural artifact. That is what he's correcting. Therefore, option 5, logical ability. I'm not even reading it. Logical consistency tells me that option 5 should be the answer. Feel free to ask questions if there are any. Language is a psychological faculty, something author believes. And this is something that he's trying to propose, assert, as opposed to the popular wisdom, which says that language is a cultural artifact, it's a culturally acquired trait or a skill. Now, if you want to double check, we can simply find out the keywords. Popular wisdom. And I'll tell you a simple strategy to find out keywords. Start with the first lines of every paragraph. Mostly you will have the idea there. Yeah, mostly you can understand the essence of a paragraph in the first 2 lines. Popular wisdom can be found in second paragraph. Do you see here? This is where we see popular wisdom. Thinking of language as an instinct inverts the popular wisdom. It means, what is the popular wisdom? It is not instinctive. Language is not instinctive. In other words, this idea is not popular wisdom, that it is a psychological faculty. It is instinctive in nature. Option 5 has to be the correct answer. Got it, guys? Now, while we are at it, can you also answer question number 3 only on the basis of logic and understanding of the main idea? भाई इतना स्मार्ट कैसे हो गया आज तुम? यहाँ तो पैसे देखा हुआ है, सबका आंसर सही कैसे आ रहा है? मुझे सबसे पहले ये जानना है। या फिर ऐसा है कि कम पढ़ना फायदेमंद हो रहा है? मुझे नहीं पता है क्या हो रहा है, बट जो भी हो रहा है बहुत अच्छा हो रहा है। अगर पैसेज पहले देखा हुआ है, आई डोंट थिंक इतने लोगों को सारे आंसर ही याद होंगे अगर पैसेज पहले देखा भी है। ओके, आई वांट यू टू बी ऑनेस्ट, हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू हैव सीन दिस पैसेज और सॉल्व दिस पैसेज बिफोर? ऑल ऑफ यू आर हु आर आंसरिंग, शो ऑफ हैंड्स। ओनली ज्ञान हैज, एंड ज्ञान इज नॉट इवन आंसरिंग। बाकी सबका आंसर ठीक निकल रहा है, बहुत बढ़िया, सबका आंसर ठीक है भाई। ऑप्शन 2 इज द आंसर। And guess what? How many of you have not even read this phrase in the passage? Spiders know how to spin webs, and we have to find out a replacement or an analogy for the same idea. I know what the main idea is. I know that this idea also coheres with the main idea that spiders know how to, basically instinctive ability. It is instinctive ability. I know the main idea. All I have to do is to find a parallel for this idea that it is instinctive ability. I don't have to read spiders know how to read spin webs. Logically speaking, I am not saying this is 100% foolproof. I'm not saying कि ये बहुत वैसा वाला static. But what I'm trying to, ingrain in you is a sense of logical ability to work. It does not always require too much reading. You read too much at times, and that is what problem. Main idea समझ में आया ना? And while we are at it, we can answer many questions only on the basis of the main idea. That is what is required, guys. Be smart about identifying the main idea. आ गया, bees collecting nectar. Option 2 is parallel to that. Okay. Question 4 will or might require some work, but that is okay. It might require some more work. You might want to give it a shot again. Try, everybody. As you can see, this will require some amount of work because these are specific information points. The use of symbols, voice modulation, communicate information to other members of the species. These are very specific points now, beyond language. They go into the details. This question is going to require some work, and therefore you will have to read the passage more. But it is okay. We are able to solve 3 questions out of 4. How much did you read? The first passage, the first paragraph, and the last paragraph. Our wholly main idea strategy. We are not going into the details of every question. I am going to teach you what basically we are going to revise all the question specific strategies, approaches that we have used. Done, everybody? Main idea. Okay, then let us try it with another passage. Let us see if we get it right this time. Ajay, do you want to try question 5 on this passage, by the way? Let's try question 5. Let's try. 30 seconds. Give me an answer, everybody. What else could it be? What else could it be? They cannot be taught because it is instinctive. First line, refer to the first line that we read. It's not a cultural artifact. If it's not a cultural artifact that we learn over years, it simply means it cannot be taught because it is biological, it is instinctive. Option 1 has to be the obvious choice. Most of you got it right again. Now you would be a fool to read this entire passage to get these 4 questions right. I would not. I never did. I never did. मैंने पहली 2 लाइंस पढ़ते ही सबसे पहले मेरा काम क्या था? And this is something that I do. I'm not only preaching, I practice it. The first thing I did after reading the first 2 lines of this passage was to read the last 2 lines, because the first 2 lines were very assertive in nature. And because I know that, okay, main idea समझना है मुझे, my primary goal is to understand the main idea in the first reading, the preliminary reading. First 2 lines, last 2 lines, idea was consistent. I straight away went to the questions and I tried to solve them and I got them right. एक क्वेश्चन ही निकला बस चौथा मुझसे, उसके लिए मेहनत करना पड़ा, वो मूड था नहीं तो किया नहीं. कौन पढ़ेगा 3 पैराग्राफ एक और क्वेश्चन के लिए? 4 निकल गया with 100% near 100% confidence, I am okay. और अगर ये 4 में से कोई गलत निकलता, I would not be upset because I know then the questions are tricky, which in any case, I am vulnerable and I'm susceptible to get wrong. In that case, there is susceptibility in any case. पूरा पढ़ने के बाद भी रहेगी वो susceptibility. तो दुख कोई नहीं है, टाइम तो बचाया. Think in terms of value proposition. जितना टाइम इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो, think in terms of value proposition. What is the value proposition? Think in terms of time management. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Try this one. Be smart. Don't read more than required. Okay, so what is the right approach here? When I read this passage, the first paragraph, I found the first line very assertive in nature. Human biology does nothing to structure human society. So basically, the role of biology in structuring human society has been discounted. Human biology, and this is very assertive. Passage becomes argumentative in the first sentence itself. And then he goes on to explain, age may enfeeble us all, but the cultures vary considerably in the prestige and power they accord to blah, 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 whatever. And then he explains with the help of an example, giving birth is a necessary condition to be called a mother, but it is not a sufficient condition, which again points out or highlights the fact that human biology does nothing to structure human society. Now, when you look, when you check out the options now, one interesting thing and important thing that you must notice. Now, here comes your logical ability. One cannot be the answer because one is contradictory. It says human behavior depends on biological linkages. And the role of biological linkage has been discounted in the passage. Dependency kaise aa gayi us par? How is it dependent then? This is contradictory to what the passage proposes in the first paragraph, first line itself. In the absence of reciprocal roles, biological linkages provide the mechanism for human behavior. It is again contradictory. Options 1 and 2 are out because they make human behavior, human society dependent on biology. 3, human behavior is independent of biological linkages, which is correct. Exactly what we have read. It is independent of biological linkages and reciprocal roles. This is a new variable. And if you mark this as the answer, you are jumping the gun. The logical thing to do here is to check for this variable in the passage. We have not read anything about reciprocal roles yet. One variable is okay. Second variable, we don't know. Option C introduces another variable. It is independent of biology. Yes. Is it also independent of reciprocal roles? We don't know. Look at option 4 especially. It becomes interesting at option 4. In the absence of biology, reciprocal roles provide the mechanism for coordinating human behavior. So 3 and 4 both discount the role of human biology. What is the difference between 3 and 4? 3 says 3 discounts the role of reciprocal roles also. And 4 says reciprocal roles cannot be discounted. They have to be taken into consideration. They govern human behavior, reciprocal roles. One of them has to be the correct answer now. 3 and 4 में से. One of them has to be the correct answer now. And 5 says reciprocal roles determine human behavior in society. It does not talk about biology. The role of biology in any case, therefore, answer has to be between options 3 and 4. Do you follow me? What remains is to check whether reciprocal roles are important or not. कहाँ check करें? सबसे पहला hotspots, first lines of each paragraph. Let's check out. And when you do so, second paragraph, first line itself. Second paragraph, first line itself that I had to check. It should be sufficient to take you to the correct answer. Everybody tell me the correct answer. Now we don't have to read the passage at all anymore. It has to be option 4. These are all actual CAT passages, 2007. I have not set the passage to suit my strategy. Just in case some people might think, sir, ये तो आप करके बता रहे हो, आपने पैसेज बनाया तो उस तरीके से बना लिया होगा. कैट वालों ने बनाया भाई, हमने नहीं बनाया. और हम दिखाएंगे पास से लेकर आज तक ये स्टैट जो हमने अप्रोच करी है वो कैसे लगती है. You just have to be smart enough and confident enough to do so. It requires logical ability on your part. आप लॉजिक नहीं लगाते हो, आप जंप करते हो या आप बहुत ज्यादा घुस जाते हो. दो काम करते हो, मिडिल ग्राउंड नहीं लेते, एक्सट्रीम्स पे जाते हो. या जंप करोगे फटाफट या फिर घुस जाओगे अंदर. Step by step approach, जितना जरूरत उतना पढ़ो, फिर और जरूरत पड़े in order to eliminate more options और पढ़ो. Don't jump the gun. As and when required, not before, not after. Don't skip that process. Okay, अभी मेन आइडिया पे चल रहे हैं हम, and we are not. ठीक है. Now while we are at it, इतना ही पढ़कर हमें मेन आइडिया समझ में आ गया. We know the main idea now, right? We have answered it after this much of effort. Can we also answer question number 2? Just using logical ability and not reading, and or probably reading just the last part where this has been sourced from, just that part. This is a tricky one, as I expected, as I suspected. Okay, I've gotten all sorts of answers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 आंसर आ चुके हैं मेरे पास अभी तक. तो clearly this is a tricky question, and this is one of the trickiest questions that CAT has ever delivered. Chalo, let us eliminate and be smart about it. What is the main idea? Biology has no role to play in human behavior or human society, in structure of the human society, right? What has a role to play? Reciprocal roles. Reciprocal roles structure human behavior or human society. Okay, this is the idea that we have understood. This is the main idea. You have to keep this thing in your mind. Now, the question is a CR question. It says, which of the following would have been true if biological linkages structured human society? 1 is something which is already true. Yes or no? The role of mother would have been defined through her reciprocal relationship with children. वो तो already हो रहा है. If biological linkages structured human society, तो 1 नहीं होता. Then biology would define a mother's relationship with her children rather than reciprocal roles would. This is already happening. Contradictory. Pure logic and understanding of the main idea, nothing more. Option 2. We would not have been offended by the father playing his role tongue in cheek. We would not be offended by a stupid role played by father, which means the reciprocal roles would not be as important because he's a father after all. Logically, option 2 is consistent with what we need. Could be the answer. But what we have to check here is whether it is given in the paragraph also. See, last line. Keywords, tongue in cheek, father. He says, we would be surprised and offended by father who played his part tongue in cheek. And why is that so? Because human society or human behavior is defined by reciprocal roles. What does that mean? You are a father if you behave like a father. There are reciprocal roles. And not just because you have fathered a child, because you're biologically a father. So biology is not defining your role. Reciprocal roles are defining. And therefore, he says here, as an example, we would be surprised and offended by a father who plays his role tongue in cheek. Now, if biology defined human society and not reciprocal roles, we would not be offended. We would be okay. He's still our father. Reciprocal roles are not important. Option 2 should be the correct answer. Logically speaking, it is consistent with what we have read. You just had to check this keyword here and combine it with the main idea to get to the correct answer. Tough question. I'm not saying this is a question that you should do or attempt to answer. But if it has to be answered, it has to be answered using main idea and the last paragraph and logical ability. Done?
So fourth option तो यही कह रहा है ना?
Even if warlords were physically weaker than their followers, they would still dominate them. Okay, if biological linkages structured human society, would this happen or would this not happen? सोच लो दोस्तों भाइयों, लॉजिकली सोच लो बस, मैं तो कुछ और मैं सोचवा ही नहीं रहा, मैं पढ़वा ही नहीं रहा। सोच पा रहे हो क्या बोल रहा है ऑप्शन 4? ऑप्शन 4 कह रहा है कि अगर एक वॉरलॉर्ड, एक मान ले किंग, मान ले कोई भी मान ले, जो एक सीनियर है, लीडर है, वॉरलॉर्ड है, किंग है, अगर वो फिजिकली वीकर भी होता तो भी वो डोमिनेट करता। भाई अगर वो फिजिकली वीकर होकर भी डोमिनेट करता तो फिर बायोलॉजी क्या हो गई? बायोलॉजी रिडंडेंट नहीं हो गई? बायोलॉजी उसकी काम ही नहीं आ रही ना, फिर इट बिकम्स रिडंडेंट। एंड द क्वेश्चन सेज इफ बायोलॉजिकल लिंकेज इज स्ट्रक्चर्ड ह्यूमन सोसाइटी, तो क्या होता? दिस इज कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी। यस, नो, एवरीबडी। Question is not asking you to read. Question is asking you to understand the main idea and to apply your logical ability. But you go too much into the details of the passage and forget that there's a logical layer to every question. There's a logical layer. It's VARC, it's not English after all. Therefore, be smart about it. Done. Chale aage. Okay, try this one. Again, main idea. Act smart. This is more recent, 2017 CAT. Might have seen this question, most many of you.
इसका तो आंसर याद है सर।
अच्छी बात है, याद है तो, पर वो निकल कैसे रहा है और कितना सब पढ़ के निकल रहा है ना, दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट। और कैसे कंफ्यूज कर सकता है, अगर पूरा पैसेज पढ़ूंगा देन वी विल गेट कंफ्यूज। दिस इज व्हाट आई वांटेड टू शो यू, दैट्स व्हाई आई पिक दिस पैसेज इन पर्टिकुलर। एक ऑप्शन ऐसा है व्हिच विल कंफ्यूज यू इफ यू रीड द एंटायर पैसेज। जस्ट रीड द फर्स्ट एंड लास्ट पैराग्राफ एंड टेल मी द आंसर राइट अवे, व्हाटएवर सीम्स लाइक द करेक्ट आंसर। फर्स्ट एंड लास्ट पैराग्राफ पूरा पूरा पढ़ के जस्ट टेल मी द आंसर, मेन आइडिया। And guys, tell me honestly, isn't it evident from the first and last paragraph? Isn't it evident? If you only read first and last paragraph, isn't it evident that one has to be the obvious choice? Social interaction is necessary to nurture creativity. Yes or no, everybody? One is the obvious choice. And you dive deeper into it, you will definitely get confused. And many of you will end up marking option 3 as the correct answer, as many of you did. Not you, I mean the other aspirants for that particular year, 2017. Option 3. Because you read more, you get confused. Also, please notice, if you remember, important aspect of central idea, primary purpose is style of writing. You remember, style of writing is also an important aspect. And in the last paragraph, here, rather, but we still have a long way to go before blah 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 has to be done. Here he gets prescriptive. Would you agree? But we have a long way to go before we rest, before we blah blah blah. So here he gets prescriptive. Problem solution. Now check out options 1 and 3. 3 is problem centric, one is solution centric. So a point not to forget while answering main idea questions, if you're stuck between two options, style can help you. It can rescue. Identify the style of writing, it will lead you to the correct answer. Another recent passage, 2020. ये तो पक्का सबने देखा होगा. देखा है तो आंसर ना दें. Wait for others to respond. Just 1 minute. नहीं देखा? First paragraph, last paragraph. Read, understand, identify the main idea, answer. Don't go any further. And I expect answers only from the ones who have not seen the passage before or not solved it before. First paragraph, last paragraph, especially last two lines. Focus, guys. Okay. The most tempting choice seems to be number 1. That's not the correct answer. The correct answer is option 4.
तो मैंने जब किया था ये पैसेज तब 1 नहीं मार्क कर दिया था मैंने भी.
जब किया था तो 1 मार्क किया था.
अब तो मुझे पता था आंसर इसलिए मैंने बोला.
एग्जैक्टली. जब किया था तो बहुतों ने 1 मार्क किया था. उसका रीजन ये है बिकॉज यू रीडिंग टू मच. यू आर स्टिल रीडिंग टू मच. सब छोड़कर सिर्फ लास्ट पैराग्राफ, लास्ट लाइन पढ़ लो सिर्फ. Leave everything else and just read the last line of the passage. What does it say? Grammar is the pole. You grab. To get language upon its feet and walking. And the first paragraph explicitly mentions bad grammar produces bad sentences. Explicitly. Here. What else do you want? So time and again, first paragraph, last paragraph will come to your rescue. First 1/3 of the passage and the last paragraph of the passage will come to your rescue. Our 2017 passage. I want you to notice the transition from first paragraph to the last paragraph. I do not want you to read the entire passage, but first paragraph, last paragraph, and ask yourself this simple question. What is the style of writing in the last paragraph? What is the primary focus? Where has the passage shifted? That will lead you to answer question number 1. Please ask yourselves what the last paragraph is about. What is the end point? What is the style of writing in the last paragraph? What is he doing in the last paragraph? That will lead you to the correct answer. Focus on the last paragraph. First paragraph is clear. He introduces this layer called subniveum. By the end, where has the passage reached is important. He's clearly outlining the effects of climate change. He's talking about the effects of climate change on subniveum and the flora and fauna it sustains. It is even explicitly mentioned here how climate change will affect the subniveum as well as the species that depend on this layer. And then he goes on to spell out the effects of climate change. So what is the primary purpose of this passage? Outline the effects. Option 3 has to be the correct answer. Option 3 has to be the correct answer. Why not 1? This thing happens only in the first para. He introduces to a relatively unknown ecosystem called subniveum only in the first paragraph, right? But the passage has moved on by the time you reach the last paragraph. Explain how it works to provide shelter and food to several species. Again, this is the building up part. This is not the primary purpose. Primary purpose can be deduced from the last paragraph where he clearly outlines the effects, spells out the effects of climate change. I hope it is clear, guys. Everybody. Now, while we are at it, can you also answer question number 2? ये बहुत ही लॉजिकल सा सवाल बन जाता है अब, बहुत ऑब्वियस और बहुत लॉजिकल सवाल बन जाता है अब. Now, if author's primary purpose is to spell out the effects of climate change to the subniveum, which action would he support? Government action to curb climate change. What else can you support? It becomes a main idea question again, kind of a main idea question. What about question 3? Can you answer this? Doesn't it also, guys, doesn't it also follow from the understanding of the primary purpose of the last paragraph and the entire idea, the entire passage? Why does he mention these two, Crabtree and Alpine Azela? What is it? Whatever it is. Of course, to demonstrate that the stability of the subniveum depends on several interrelated factors, including shrubs on the forest floor. That's evident in the last paragraph. 3 questions out of, I think 4 were there or 5 were there, maximum 5 were there. 3 questions out of 5 can be answered, can easily be answered by only focusing on first and last paragraphs and understanding the broad outline of the passage, the primary purpose of the passage, guys. 3 out of 5 questions, which is a big number, huge number. This is 2017. So what do we note? One last, before we move on to the second type of question. Quickly. ये शायद कम लोगों ने देखा होगा, इट्स नॉट वेरी पॉपुलर पैसेज, पता नहीं देखा है तो अच्छी बात है, इट्स स्टिल अ पास्ट ईयर पैसेज। Isn't it pretty obvious? Everybody's answer is right. Isn't it pretty obvious that, okay, which of the following interventions would the author most strongly support? Main idea. What is he against? He's against the lie that is being propagated about plastic pollution, that it can be curbed by individual efforts. It cannot be. Producers of the plastic have to be banned and blah blah blah. He says in the first and last paragraphs collectively. Therefore, this is what he will most strongly support. Only one choice can confuse you after reading first and last paragraph. I think third. But clearly, bags are very, there are subset of plastic products that he's against. It's not the entire plastic product set. He's against plastic use in general, not bags in particular. That is the problem, right? Therefore, option 4 is the correct answer. Also, laws. Author ने clearly बोला laws में problem है भाई. You have to do something with the laws. You have to pass stricter laws. 4 has to be the answer. Can you also answer now while we are at it? Can you also answer question number 2? Let's see. मैं अज्यूम कर रहा हूं तुम सबने पहले देखा नहीं है पैसे, देखा है तो चीटिंग कर रहे हो तुम, फिर मजा नहीं आएगा, नहीं तो मैं बहुत खुश हो रहा हूँ, फिर हो जाऊं खुश, ये एक्चुअल बता, जल्दी बता दो, हो जाऊं खुश पक्का, चलो हो गया खुश। फिर 1 इज द करेक्ट आंसर, एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट। तो तुम्हें भी खुश होना चाहिए, करेक्ट निकल रहा, देख लो। तो व्हाट डू वी लर्न? अब ये एक्चुअल कैट पैसेजेस है, मैंने तो गंदे गंदे दिए हैं तुम्हें, कैट तो अच्छे देता है, बाकी साथ में स्ट्रैटेजी हम अगर थोड़ा लॉजिकली चले, जो मैं चलवा रहा हूं वैसे चले, तो बड़ी जल्दी आंसर निकल कर आता है। कैन वी ऑल्सो आंसर क्वेश्चन नंबर 3? चलो चेक करते हैं इसको भी। आउट ऑफ 4 वी कैन आंसर 3, आई थिंक 4 या 5 थे इस पे भी शायद। lol max, as they say. What is this question, man? Just first paragraph and last paragraph, and we have been able to answer 3 questions correctly. I don't know whether others have arrived at the correct answer or not, but whoever has arrived at the correct answer. All your answers are correct, whoever has answered. What is this analogy that author is using? Come on, others, still waiting for your answer, guys. What is this analogy that is using? Hammering a nail to a falling building. मतलब ये बिल्डिंग गिर रही है, तुम साला कील ठोक रहे, किस बात पे? वही उसी बात पे बोल रहा ना, that same thing that यार, हाँ मतलब you think that individual effort can cause a change or can curb plastic pollution. It cannot. So clearly option 3 is our answer. Done है everybody? पढ़ने की आवश्यकता थी क्या इसको इससे ज्यादा इन 3 क्वेश्चंस के लिए? अगर मुझे 3 क्वेश्चंस आसानी से मिल गया 3 मिनट में, 4 मिनट में, then can I not target my strategy, my approach for the remaining 2 questions and decide whether I want to go in, dive deeper, or maybe come back to these questions later? That is the game changer, guys. That is the game changer. And these are all past year questions. मैं 17-18 past सब कुछ लेकर आ गया यहाँ पर. Whenever there's a main idea question, what do we learn therefore? What to do for main idea questions or to understand the main idea in preliminary reading of the passage? जो हमने किया है पूरे कोर्स में, throughout the course. What is the main idea? कहां से निकलता है? Stance, conclusion. 2 important things. Stance is mostly there. Where? It is mostly there in the first para. Somewhere in the first para. कहीं पे भी हो सकता है, anywhere in the first para or second para. 90% of the passages, rather 95% of the passage, it has to be there in the first or second para stance. अगर first para लंबा है तो mostly first में, छोटा सा है तो शायद second में, mostly ऐसा चलता है. First conclusion always in the last, second half बोलूंगा मैं, second half of last para. Second half of last para for main idea and for preliminary reading, first reading of the passage. If you are sure that you have identified the stance in the first para, simply move to the conclusion part, the last para. If the ideas cohere, if the ideas are consistent, be confident of your answers. Switch to questions. Switch to questions immediately. The main idea approach. Done? Everybody? And what factors to keep in mind? Style of writing. While eliminating options, style of writing. Narrow answer choices to be eliminated. Broadly 2 things, mainly 2 things. While following the process of elimination. Narrow and style of writing. Is special focus on conclusion, guys, for main idea. Special focus on the conclusion part, the last part. Second half of last para. Second half of last para is the most important component of the passage, part of the passage when it comes to identifying the main idea, primary purpose, theme, overall style, overall purpose, main aim, etc. All questions in that bracket. Okay, so this was MI. Then there are these questions which are called reference questions. Look at the question stem. In the passage, the expression like a Madonna from a Madonna refers to, alludes to what? Now, can you answer? Can you try to answer this one, please? Even if you are able to narrow it down to 2 answer choices, please report your answers. The 2 narrowed down choices. Nahi, Anchita. That is exactly what I'm trying to, revisit. Guys, all of you who have answered are falling for a very classic, typical trap. Chalo. What is the trick and what is the tip for reference based questions? What does it refer to? What does this expression refer to, etc. type of question? Reference wala question. Stem plus minus 2. What does that mean? What does that mean? Question stem plus minus 2. Wherever you are able to find the question stem, read 2 sentences before that, read 2 sentences after that. Answer will be found within these 4 or 5 sentences. Stem plus minus 2. What does X refer to? X plus minus 2 sentences. Now work carefully and see if you can identify the correct answer. Understand that thought flow in the 4 or 5 sentences. Gyan correct, Brahat correct, Kashish now correct. Stem plus minus 2. Understand the thought flow. Everybody else get to the correct answer. Come on. Actual cat passages, all of them in today's class. 2007. Vishesh correct. Vedansh correct. Hemshikha correct. Finally. Give it due time. Don't jump. Okay. Like a Madonna. This is a stem. This is the question root, rather. Like a Madonna from a Madonna. Okay, let's see. What is the thought flow? What is the idea? In blah, 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 in such a culture, stable and sure of itself, within the frontiers of naturalized experience, the arts wield their creative power, not so much in width as in depth. We'll have to understand this line first. Arts wield their creative power, not so much in width as in depth. What does that mean? जो artistic power है, जो creativity है arts में, ध्यान से सुनिएगा. The creativity in arts is not about width. Creativity is not about width. Creativity in art is about depth. What does that mean? If they have mastered a particular artistic style, they will keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into that artistic style, and that will be called creativity. That will be the definition of creativity for them. Creativity in arts, in such a culture, whatever culture is being described above, I don't care about that culture. In such a culture, creativity is not about creating new forms of art. Width is not creativity. Depth is creativity. creating one form of art and refining it over and over. That is what the idea means. They do not create new experience. Okay, yes, my understanding is right. Therefore, they do not create new experience, new forms of art, but they deepen and purify, refine the old one. Okay. Their works do not differ from one another, like a new horizon from a new horizon, but like a Madonna from a Madonna. So what is the difference in their artworks? It's like one Madonna from another Madonna. They could both be, kind of, let's say, okay, let's talk in terms of painting. Let's say it's a painting of Mona Lisa. Both of them are Mona Lisas. And they're not creating any new experience. They're only refining the experience. What are the words now? Note the words. STEM plus minus 2 में क्या क्या words देखने को मिले? Arts देखने को मिला, creative power देखने को मिला, and the idea was that width नहीं है, depth है. Now, if you write down this idea, creativity in arts is not equal to width, it's rather equal to depth. And the same idea is being explained by the example of Madonna. It's one Madonna from another Madonna. Therefore, one thing is sure, art तो आएगा पक्का आंसर में. ये नहीं हो सकता, because we are STEM plus minus 2, we are talking about arts. When you narrow it down to options 1 and 2, what you are left with? There's no artistic license, a consequence of artistic license. There's no talk of license anywhere. Option 2 has to be the correct answer. Difference between two artistic interpretations or analysis or depth. One Madonna is different from another Madonna, but both of them are same art pieces, same art forms. It's just the interpretation that matters. It is just the interpretation that differs. Many of you got it right finally, which is nice. Do you want to try question number 2 on the same passage and the same nature? Try question number 2. Adventurers of experience refer to whom? Let's see if you get this right in the first go. Be careful, be logical. STEM plus minus 2. Correct again. नहीं विशेष, शायद एकदम स्टेम पकड़ लिया. स्टेम प्लस माइनस 2, 2-3 सेंटेंसेस ऊपर से 2-3 सेंटेंसेस नीचे तक. आंसर इज एविडेंट. नहीं वेदांश, नहीं शिखा. प्लस माइनस 2 का मतलब होगा अगर यहां पर ये मिल रहा है ना, एक सेंटेंस ये भी पढ़ना पड़ेगा, ये भी पढ़ना पड़ेगा. और अगर यहाँ प्रोनाउन आ गया, सच अ पीरियड वाज, तो शायद ये भी पढ़ना पड़ेगा. बट इन एनी केस ये यहां से तो पढ़ना ही पड़ेगा ना 2 सेंटेंसेस. तो यहाँ तो ये तो है ही प्लस माइनस 2. आप कैसे आंसर दे रहे हो? Come on, let's try again. It's obvious, evident on a platter. He clearly, guys, please note, and please focus. In reference questions, you don't have to think too much. You just have to follow the thought. कहां से thought continue कर रही है, कहां से start हो रही है. That's it. He starts talking about the period of Renaissance, doesn't he? And he calls Shakespeare the pioneer of that period, the poetic consummation of that period of Renaissance. And the idea continues. The idea continues. So adventurers of experience, therefore, should refer to very straightforward answer. It should refer to the poets and artists of the Renaissance. Who else? Everybody done?
Sir, why not option 4?
Why option 4 is my question, Kashish. My counter question is why option 4?
Sir, उसके बाद में ऐसा बोला गया है that they were trying to revitalize it. The lost
That
old
was their
art.
goal, na?
हाँ.
They were trying, that was their goal, that was the attempt. But what does this refer to? Question is not about what was their attempt, what was their goal. What does this refer to? तो reference क्या है? इसको pronoun मान लेते हैं. Let us consider this expression a pronoun. Now if I ask you, Modi ji is blah blah blah, he is trying to revitalize the Indian economy. So what does he refer to? Somebody who is trying to revitalize Indian economy. Or does he refer to Modi ji?
Modi ji.
Modi ji. Modi ji नहीं बोलते, banned word है. ठीक है, पक्का समझा क्या? If I say Mr. Modi is trying to, Mr. Modi is the prime minister, he is trying to revitalize the Indian economy. And the question says, what does he refer to? What does he refer to? Or whom does he refer to? The answer has to be Modi and not somebody who's trying to revitalize the Indian economy. Similarly, adventurers of experience as a reference, as a pronoun, therefore should refer to the poets of Renaissance and Shakespeare included. So poets and artists of Renaissance who were trying to revitalize. Yes.
सर इसमें मतलब ये आंसर इसलिए हुआ कि लाइक वो बता रहा था जो भी रेनेसांस के बारे में वो कंटिन्यू हो रहा था और वो लाइक वैसे हमारा आंसर आया सर. तो सर अगर इसको लाइक चेंज करना होता, अगर वो लिख देता एडवेंचर्स ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस हु सेट आउट एज दो, टेंस चेंज कर देता तो तब तो सर फोर्थ हो जाता
पॉइंट था. अगर मैं हु लिख देता फिर ये रेफरेंस ना होकर ये एडजेक्टिव हो गया, डिफाइनिंग हो गया. Which means what does it refer to? Anybody who sets out to, then the answer would be probably 4. Correct.
Okay, sir.
Because then understand what has happened. Who is the pronoun now?
Yes, sir.
Who is the pronoun now? And this becomes the, let's call it noun, a noun expression. And therefore, what does this refer to? Explained in the pronominal reference. Understood?
सर और उस इसी के हु लगा के हम वो जो वो बता रहा था उससे हम लाइक चेंज हो जाते हैं ना, लाइक थोड़ा सा लाइक फिर सिर्फ रेनेसांस के बारे में
थोड़ा आगे बढ़ जाता, प्रोग्रेस कर जाता is something that you are saying. If that is what you are saying, you are right.
Yes, sir. All right.
Idea would have progressed. Understood everybody? Refers to का क्या मतलब हुआ है? ठीक है, stem plus minus 2 आंसर वही मिलेगा guys. Question 3. Though it's not a reference question, let's try it nonetheless. A ridiculously easy question. Don't complicate it unnecessarily. Now wait, stop here. Now clearly you are struggling to find the answer in stem plus minus 2, right? Minus 2 is anyway redundant for us, useless, because it's a poem. It's poetic phrase now. Now question says this particular poem leads Rilke or Rilke, whoever he is, this guy to do what? This poem leads Rilke to do what? And these two sentences do not answer the question. Clearly, therefore, you have to read more, go on. Read until you have a definite answer to this question and an obvious answer. A moment of epiphany, so to say. Correct, Vishwas. On a platter. Come on, guys, this is easy. We can all get it right. Read until you find the obvious answer, evident answer written, served to you on a platter. Correct, most of you now. Here is where we get the root, guys. And how do we know this is the question stem? Actually, this was the question stem, Rilke's conclusion. And you were reading the wrong question stem here. So it is still the same process, stem plus minus 2, but you identified the wrong stem. This was not the stem. So यहाँ पे तो वो narrate कर रहा है ना, he tells a story. What was the story? Blah 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 blah. This is a story. And then he says, I don't know why and how is his conclusion, but suddenly I understood the situation of the poet, the place of the poet, and the function of a poet in my age, in this age. So clearly this poem leads this guy R to define the place of the poet in his culture, in his age. Option 1 has to be the obvious choice. Clear? Easy question, all of you. So the stem plus minus 2 rule, this rule applies to most questions. Now, there's a rider. What is the rider? अगर दो में नहीं मिल रहा तो रुको मत के वहीं से जबरदस्ती निकालना है and regress करते रहो उसमें. That will be stupid. या तो drop the question or give 30 seconds and read. इसको यहाँ तक 4-5 तक जा सकते हैं हम. Stem plus minus 4-5 तक जा सकते हैं हम. अगर आंसर नहीं मिलता 2 में तो ही, otherwise it is not required. Stem plus minus 2 mostly, sometimes occasionally stem plus minus 4. And if you don't find the answer, still drop the question. Immediately drop such a question, because then it is an intuitive question reading between the lines. Answer is not. छोड़ those questions. The reference question should be dropped then and there. So follow this rule. What does this X refer to in the passage? Plus minus 2. Stem plus minus 2 has to be there. Just focus on these 4 lines. Focus, concentrate, understand the idea, give it time. जितना लगे उसको समझने में दो. Answer mostly वहां से निकल आएगा कि क्या बात चल रही है वहां पर. Thought flow. What is the thought flow? What is the reference? Okay. Try one more before we move on.
Sir.
Or rather, let's move on. Hanji.
सर इस सेशन में आपने लाइक वो वाले रखे हैं सर, आइडिया फ्लो वाले, लाइक वर्ड्स, और उसके बाद वो हो
वो
रहा है।
मेन आइडिया में आ गया ना।
ऑलराइट सर,
Same applies to, same logic applies. First paragraph, last paragraph. Check out
ऑलराइट,
the set of keywords, eliminate option. Same चीज चलेगी उसके अंदर भी, nothing.
ठीक है सर।
अभी हम समरी में एक बार मैं बता दूंगा जो हम कर रहे हैं ना, उसका एक 2 स्लाइड्स के अंदर समरी है मेरे पास,
ऑलराइट सर,
उसमें वो कर लेंगे. But I just want you to gain back momentum before we
ओके।
before the D-Day. चलो, actual CAT passage. How to operate with the fact questions? What are the important things with fact check questions? Fact check, inference, and interpretation of a line, a particular sentence. What is the interpretation, meaning of this sentence, etc. 2 things matter. Correct answer is going to be the paraphrase of a sentence always. Second, process of elimination. Only 2 things matter in such questions. I do not want you to read the passage, please. I want you to target questions directly. Identify keywords, scan, target. But follow the process of elimination smartly. Be smart. (2008) passage. There's a divide right now between 2 answer choices as is expected in such a question. अब सब कुछ तुम्हारा एलिमिनेशन पे कुछ है ही नहीं, पूरा पैसेज पढ़ के भी कुछ नहीं मिलना, आंसर वही है सामने है. Just have to be smart about it. Read what is written. It's right there. Understand the tonality of the sentence, the nature of the sentence, the implication in real life, in practical life, and answer the question. What is it written? It's written right there. Okay, no, it's not 2, it's 1. Author has never identified land resources specifically in the sentence about Haiti and Rwanda. He says, it appears to me that one strand consisted of population growth outstripping available resources, not land resources in particular. Could be food, could be other resources, energy resources, could be anything. So author says one strand, one reason, one line of thought is that population growth outstripped available resources, a crisis which is happening in Rwanda and Haiti and elsewhere these days also. That might have happened with Mayan civilization, and that could be the reason. So land and other resources. Option 1 is the answer, not specifically land, guys. अब इसमें कैट का एक टिपिकल एक क्लासिक एग्जांपल है. ऐसे पैसे तुम्हें ऐसे चीजें देगा, तुम्हें लगेगा कुछ है ही नहीं, पढ़ने में तो बहुत आसान लग रहा है. ऑप्शंस इतना कंफ्यूज कर दे रहे हैं. ऑप्शंस 1 and 2 यू डोंट नो कौन से के साथ जाएं, बट इट इज राइट देयर, है भी सब कुछ सामने. There comes what? Process of elimination, smart elimination. You have to do it. लिखा था कहीं लैंड नहीं. Option 2 is narrow, too specific. That's not the tonality of this sentence. Goes out. Question 2. It will require some logical ability again. And if you do not notice, it is also a reference question. By anthropogenic drought, he means what? So it's a reference question. It can be solved actually in 2 ways, but one is a risky way. Vocab understanding. If you know the word root, you know the answer. But that's a risky thing. Could be right, could be wrong. I'm not saying it is wrong, but the right approach is by looking at what is written. Again, stem plus minus 2. And if what is written also matches your understanding of vocab, nothing better than that. Which means I've already revealed the answer to you. And yes, option 4 is the obvious choice. Anthropo means humans. A drought caused by actions of human beings is the answer, but that's by vocab. That's by vocab. Anthropo means human. Anthropogenic drought caused by actions of human beings. But what is written? Plus minus 2. If you see here, second paragraph here, anthropogenic drought. Plus minus 2. So blah, blah, blah. Compounding that mismatch between population and resources was the second reason, second strand. Effects of deforestation and hillside erosion, which caused a decrease in the amount of usable farmland at a time when more rather than less farmland was needed, and possibly exacerbated by an anthropogenic drought resulting from deforestation. Resulting from deforestation tells me that it was the effect of some actions of removing trees, which was caused by human beings. Therefore, what is written also leads us to answer number 4. Now, very logical approach. Third approach, logical approach. First is vocab, second is stem plus minus 2, third is logical approach. If two were to be the answer, which is the only other tempting choice, by the way, others are stupid choices, they're eliminated. If 2 were to be the answer, a drought caused due to deforestation, then this expression would become redundant. I don't know if I make sense to you or not. If anthropogenic meant a drought caused due to deforestation, then author should not mention this expression resulting from deforestation. This becomes redundant, useless. Agar yahi iska meaning hai to, if this were the meaning. Therefore, logical approach for eliminating option number 2 and still arriving at option number 4. Okay. Read question number 3. I'll take you back to the passage. It's a fact-based question again. The Mayan drought was different from earlier droughts because, that is the question. Look for the right keyword, right place, right spot in the passage. Should we look at the options?
Yes.
Another easy question. Yes, correct answer is option 3. It happened when they had occupied. This was the difference between earlier droughts and this drought. There was no land available. They had occupied all of them. Okay. 4th, read the question. This is going to be a little tricky, but let's try. Why is it difficult to explain the reasons for Maya collapse? Okay, let's see where we find them. And I'm not taking you to the options unless and until you identify the root of the question. Kahan se aa raha hai? That is important. Why is it difficult to explain the Maya collapse? The reasons for the Maya collapse. Okay, let us see this question this way. You want to see the options first? Okay. Correct, Jugal. Correct, Gyan. Correct, Avinash. Correct.
सर किसी रीजन को प्यार नहीं दिखाया वही कारण है ना
एग्जैक्टली एक वो कारण है लेकिन एक रूट एक क्वेश्चन का रूट भी है कहीं से निकाल भी सकते हैं डायरेक्ट सोर्स भी कर सकते हैं आई टेक यू देयर करेक्ट एवरीबॉडी अंशिता रॉन्ग
फर्स्ट पैरा
एग्जैक्टली जुगल फर्स्ट पैरा बता कौन से वाला पार्ट व्हिच पार्ट
सो
व्हिच सेंटेंस
सो मतलब तो एक मिनट सर
remains puzzling
हाँ सर रिमेन सो डिसएग्रीमेंट था मतलब उनको ही नहीं पता था
कह रहे माया आर्कियोलॉजिस्ट स्टिल डिसएग्री
हाँ
vigorously among themselves in part because the different reasons the different strands evidently varied in importance among different parts of the Maya realm. So basically he's saying that in different parts of Maya realm domain different reasons were prevalent. There were different strands that caused the collapse, that might have caused the collapse, and there's no agreement, there's no unanimity, which pretty much paraphrases option 4, or is paraphrased in option 4 rather. It has not been possible to ascertain which of the factors best explains as to why. So they disagree among themselves. It has not been possible. So it is difficult to explain the reasons because there's no unanimity, there's no consensus. Option 4 is the answer. Understood? Good job, guys. All right. 5 will require a little bit of work, but chalo, try karte hain isko bhi. 5. A classic case of process of elimination. जो फंसा फंस गया. I'll take you back to the passage once. Just read the options and see what you have to verify. Huh?
सर ऑप्शन ही नहीं याद, एलिमिनेट कैसे करूं?
इसमें थोड़ा दिक्कत होगा because for this process of elimination you need passage and this juxtaposed question. Okay. चलो एक एक करके करते हैं फिर, ठीक है. ऑप्शन ए बता दो कम से कम. ऑप्शन ए, cited not cited. Environmental degradation due to excess population. Check.
ये तो था ना, वो फर्स्ट में किया था.
Which strand is this?
First one, deforestation and anthropology.
Deforestation, etc. It pretty much sums up, yes. So environmental degradation due to excess population, drought was caused, etc., etc. This is there cited as a strand. Social collapse due to excess population. Let's try. Let's go with the easy ones now. Social collapse might take time. जो अभी पढ़ा है उससे देखते हैं. Increased warfare among Maya people. Climate change. Okay, let's verify these two. Increased warfare.
Sir.
Climate change. Third strand. Maya warfare peaked just before the collapse, which means it has also been identified as one of the possible
तो
reasons.
फिफ्थ भी आ गया नेक्स्ट से.
फिफ्थ स्ट्रैंड क्या है? फिफ्थ तो बाद में देखेंगे.
मतलब
अभी जैसा क्लाइमेट चेंज ड्रॉट मेंशन्ड है, तो जब पहले मार्क करके आए तो क्लाइमेट चेंज वुड बी अ रीजन. यस, दिस इज मेंशन्ड. नाउ
फिफ्थ भी एलिमिनेट हो गया.
फिफ्थ एलिमिनेट हो गया. देखते हैं. ऑब्सेशन ऑफ माया पॉपुलेशन with their own short-term goals, short-term concerns. Let's verify.
फिफ्थ स्टैंड सेकंड लाइन.
क्या लिखा है?
फिफ्थ लाइक
बट ये किंग्स की है ना, ये किंग्स एंड नोबल्स की है ये.
बृहत ने तो मिस कर दिया ना. बृहत का तो आ चुका माइनस यार. बृहत का तो आ चुका है माइनस, तो गया. ये लल्लू सवाल पर गया. प्रोसेस ऑफ एलिमिनेशन नहीं. क्या बोला, क्या लिखा है? ऑब्सेशन ऑफ माया पॉपुलेशन with their short-term concerns. And fifth strand, the fifth reason identified was obsession of Maya kings and nobles with their short-term concerns. They were basically self-centered. Kings and nobles, not Maya population. Therefore, this is the answer. It's not cited. Social collapse kahan se aaya? Can you verify social collapse? Fifth strand. These were the problems undermining the society. There were some problems undermining the society. So social collapse was happening, and kings were not able to curb this problem. They were not able to foresee or anticipate this problem. That is why Maya civilization might have collapsed. So आ गया ना, social collapse due to excess population, warfare was happening, etc., etc. So option 2 is also verified. 5 is the answer. Okay, so what's the takeaway for fact-based questions? Again, what is the takeaway? Fact-based, inference-based, or line interpretation questions, two things matter the most. Paraphrase the correct answer. There has to be a paraphrase within the passage. Paraphrase the correct answer, eliminate the wrong ones. and I strongly advise against marking an answer, attempting a question or answering a question if you cannot eliminate exactly 3 options. If you can eliminate less than 3 or more than 3, which means all 4 can be eliminated. Even after second attempt, even after third attempt, nahi samajh mein aa raha, nahi dikh raha, you can still eliminate 4 options, or you can eliminate only 2 and 2 still remain. Drop the question, leave the question, move on. So paraphrase the correct ones, eliminate the wrong ones for fact-based and inference-based. Okay. This is a recent passage. Both of them are recent passages. CAT 2019-20. So I'm guessing आप लोगों ने बहुतों ने देख लिया होगा. So we'll save some time here. These are all again same questions based on the same concept: fact, identification, inference, etc. Aladdin, have you seen this passage before, guys? I guess you have. Must have.
Yes, sir.
बहुत पॉपुलर पैसेज है, देख लिया होगा. ठीक है, सेम कॉन्सेप्ट यहाँ पे भी लग रहा है. फाइनली the last RC question type, critical reasoning and style based questions. Let's see if we can answer these questions, guys. Again, 2017 probably. Choice anxiety. Now, what are the pointers for a CR based question? If you remember, what are the important points to keep in mind? First thing, if it is an application based question or an analogy based question, find out a parallel situation, etc. Analogy based question. What to do? Identify the variables involved. First thing to do is identify the variables involved. If you can clearly identify the variables, proceed, or else drop the question then and there. If you can't identify the variables, drop the question. If you can't understand kya variables involved in the passage, in that situation, drop the question right away. Application or analogy based question. Uske baad strengthen the argument type of question. Strengthen the argument or weaken the argument. For weakening, always write down to prove. Else you'll get confused. करना क्या था? करते करते support कर रहे होगे. For weakening based questions, always write down to prove. क्या prove करना है? So application based question, identify the variables. Strengthening the question as it is, proceed. Weaken based question, always write down to prove. Shorter the better, more mathematical the better. Words come, equation zyada. X leads to y. X increases, y increases. In other words, x is proportional to y. Identify the variables and write down the equation in mathematical form rather than words. It's always helpful for CR based questions. Okay, so these are the important pointers. Now, अब इस क्वेश्चन में यही समझना पड़ेगा पहले तो क्वेश्चन मांग क्या रहा है. डिमांड इटसेल्फ is something for you to understand. Remember, question, demand, simplify. For CR questions, for fact based questions, simplify the question demand. First thing, frame an approach in your mind. What are you going to do about this question? ढूंढ क्या रहे हो? Ask yourself this first. Which of the following hypothetical statements, which means CR तो बन गया यहीं पर, would add the least depth to the author's prediction? Can you tell me what the right approach should be? We are not going to question को solve नहीं करेंगे, probably किया हुआ है, just the approach. How should we approach this question? Which of the following would add the least depth to author's prediction of the fate of startups?
So like identify author, like क्या सोच रहा है, और उसके बाद if कोई अगर option weaken कर रहा है तो like mark that.
Wrong approach. अगर कोई weaken कर रहा है तो mark करेंगे. Basically you will be looking for an answer choice जो कि weaken कर रही होगी, right? Which is the wrong approach.
Okay.
Question is not which of the following weakens the argument about this particular thing. Question is which of the following adds least depth, which means which of the following does not strengthen. So what is the right approach? The right approach is to identify 3 options that strengthen the author's argument. Identify 3 options that strengthen the author's argument. Whatever remains, it could be irrelevant or it could weaken, is my correct answer. It does not have to weaken necessarily, understand? Right approach therefore is to identify 3, let's say koi bhi 3 hai wo. Identify the 3 strengtheners. And of course, it's a specific CR question. A startup ke baare mein, prediction of the fate of the startups, offering few product options. What is the author's point of view about this specific idea? First, we'll have to locate, scan the passage for this particular keyword, stem, read what his opinion is, understand, and then identify 3 options that strengthen his opinion, eliminate them. The 4th is our answer, understand? ठीक है? इसमें क्या करेंगे? Question 2 का right approach क्या होगा? What is the right approach for question number 2? Quickly. A quick glance through the question should tell you something about the question. Should tell you about the variables involved in the question. Yes? What are the variables involved in the question?
New food brand.
Hanji, new food. The variables in the question. New food brand. नहीं, वो variable थोड़ी, वो तो question की demand है.
Range and price.
2 ही variables तो 2 ही हैं भाई. पूरे options के अगर देखोगे तो 2 ही variables हैं. एक तो range of products. Range, product range. दूसरा price, the price range. So basically variety of products, variety कितना है, price band कितना है, 2 variables हैं. Therefore you already have a set approach for this question. How to approach? Author, what does the author believe about these 2 factors, these 2 variables? That is what you have to identify. Whether variety should be less or more, which will help us eliminate options. इसमें से 10, 25, 25 में से 2 जाएंगे. And then whether price band should be, you know, it should have a wide spectrum or a narrow spectrum. ये wide spectrum और narrow spectrum, उससे फिर बाकी के 2 बचे हुए ऑप्शंस जाएंगे. साफ दिख रहा है इस तरीके से ऑप्शंस एलिमिनेट होंगे. So you have to identify whether author wants more variety and a wider price band or the opposite. Understood everybody the question approach? Okay. Now what is the right approach for question number 3?
Sir, if true, 1 would support and 3 will not support.
Wrong approach, Kashish.
Except
Take it as it is, na Kashish. Question does not ask you to identify a strengthener. It asks you to identify 3 weakeners. Except
sir, वो problematic लग रहा है.
Problematic क्या है उसमें? 3 weaken करेंगे. There are 3 options that will weaken. One will not weaken. If 1 will not weaken, what does that mean? Does it mean it will strengthen?
Irrelevant भी हो सकता है.
It could be irrelevant. It might not have any impact on the author's argument, yes or no, or author's claims.
Yes sir. और sir जब weaken और strengthen होता है तो उसमें हम negative वो positive कर देते हैं, वो use कर सकते हैं?
नहीं कर सकते. वही तो करके तूने strengthen बोला था, जो गलत है.
Okay, क्योंकि weaken negative नहीं होता पूरा.
नहीं, negative हो ना हो छोड़ देते हैं उसको. None is this except वाले में वो strategy चलती है. None of the following is false except का मतलब क्या हुआ? None and except तो हो गए ना आपस में दोनों exact negative, absolute negatives. So none of the following is false except means what is false. Or none of the following is true except means what is true.
Yes sir.
But which of the following would weaken? All of the following would weaken except means 1 will not weaken, and not weaken is not equal to strengthen. Not weaken is equal to impact less or strengthen.
Okay.
So what is the right approach therefore, guys, for such a question? स्ट्रेट चलो, घुमाओ मत उसको, स्ट्रेट चलो। इस क्वेश्चन में वीकन, स्ट्रेंथन, एक्सेप्ट वाले में स्ट्रेट चलो।
सर यही जो गलती मैंने लाइक फर्स्ट में कर दी थी, उल्टा कर दिया।
सेम, strengthen in strengthen and weaken questions which involve except. Don't assume the opposite, go straight. Identify 3 options that strengthen or weaken. The 4th one is your answer. It does not have to do the opposite. It could be impactless as well if the question involves an except. An important point. That is why I picked these particular questions to, मुझे पता है गलती करते हैं आप लोग, अभी भी करते हैं। All of the following weaken except, अच्छा strengthen ढूंढ लो। No, wrong approach. Understood, all of you?
Yes.
Okay. Fine. I guess we can sum it up now before the general talk. So this is what the overall strategy should look like. Wait. So this is the summary of everything that we have discussed thus far. A smart approach should look like this. Read the first 2 paragraphs and the last paragraph. There comes the first checkpoint, readability of the passage. 2 options, the passage is readable. Then if you are a decent reader, if your reading speed is good, complete reading the passage. You may complete reading the passage and go to questions. But if you are a slow reader, after reading the first 2 paragraphs and the last paragraph, it is advisable you switch to questions. You move to questions immediately. If the passage is not readable, after first 2 paragraphs and the last paragraph as well, spending 2.5 minutes on these 3 paragraphs, if it is not readable, directly go to questions, everybody, whether you are a good reader, bad reader, go to questions. Why am I not telling you to skip the passage? Again, difficult passage, easy question setups are very popular. Therefore, go to questions, give it at least a minute to glance through them. देखो कुछ अपने लायक लगता है तो attempt, नहीं लगता तो leave. फिर तो difficult question, difficult passage setup दिखी गया हमें, then leave. So first checkpoint, readability. First 2 paragraphs and last paragraph देखकर check कर लो. How will it help? If there's a main idea question, जो भी देखा हमने, if there's a main idea question, it can already be answered. After this amount of reading, you should be ideally you should be able to answer main idea questions and other questions which are centered around the main idea. Which of the following would the author most likely support? जो उसका main argument है, उसी को support करेगा. जो main problem है, उसी को support करेगा. Yes, ideally, you should attempt only data-specific questions on difficult setups, unreadable passages. Okay, that's the first checkpoint. Second, now comes the second checkpoint. When you're dealing with questions, finally, read the question stem and identify the question's nature. Now, what do I mean by question nature? It could be sourced from first, second, last paragraphs, which is the red part of the passage. जो part आप पढ़ चुके हो, अगर वहां से आ रहा है question, go in, attempt the question. But if it comes from the, part of the passage that you are yet to read, and which is also not, concentrated, rather scattered, then mark for later. Leave the question for later. This is the second checkpoint, question nature. What amount of time it will involve. That's a smart way of thinking. Final checkpoint, the third checkpoint, elimination. Options nature. Are they too close? even after spending what 120 seconds, if you are still stuck, सबके SWOT analysis में यही देखा था ना, अप्रोक्सीमेटली 90 seconds to 120 seconds के बीच में है सबका वो टाइम, जिसके बियॉन्ड गलती करके निकलते हो. So final checkpoint options nature. If it is taking more than 90 seconds or 120 seconds for you to eliminate options, leave the question. Drop the question. ये पढ़ लेना पूरा एल्गोरिदम अच्छे से बना के, तुम्हें ये 3 स्लाइड के अंदर सारा एल्गोरिदम है, व्हाट इज द लॉजिकल अप्रोच, और आज करके बता दिया. और जो हमने पूरे साल में करा है वो ये रहा, VARC स्ट्रेटजी इन शॉर्ट्स. Give RC 25 to 30 minutes, verbal ability 10 to 15 minutes. Anywhere between 10 and 15, 15 is the ceiling. Second pointer, do not leave tetas unanswered. That would be foolish of you. And mostly when we say theta, we mean parajumbles. 3 parajumble questions could fetch you 9 marks. Assuming already that गलती निकलेगा is a foolish strategy, could be simple, could be ridiculously easy. In any case, there's no harm. But what is the ceiling? Third pointer, do not leave them unanswered, but don't spend more than 90 seconds on a PJ. सर ने बोला था अनआंसर्ड नहीं छोड़ना, तो 120 सेकंड दे दिया पैराजंबल को, 180 सेकंड दे दिया, विच मींस 3 मिनट्स दे दिया. सर ने ये भी बोला था थर्ड पॉइंटर में इमीडिएटली बाद, डोंट स्पेंड मोर देन 90 सेकंड्स. मेरे पास मत आना सर 3 मिनट लग गया पैराजंबल, तब भी गलत निकला, बोल रहा हूँ. डोंट लीव देम अनआंसर्ड बट डोंट स्पेंड मोर देन 90 सेकंड्स. फोर्थ पॉइंट, डोंट स्पेंड मोर देन 120 सेकंड्स ऑन अ नॉन पीजे क्वेश्चन विच इज आरसी, पैराग्राफ समरी, आउट ऑफ कॉन्टेक्स्ट, एनी टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चन. डोंट स्पेंड मोर देन 120 सेकंड्स. Always simplify the question demand if there are too many negations involved. And pre-think your approach before you look at the answer choices. What are you supposed to find out? Have an image of the answer. That is important. मैं ढूंढ क्या रहा हूं, and this is my answer. This is how the answer should look like. Have it in here before you look at the answer choices. Otherwise, bias. Next. Pay very close attention to the quantifiers and qualifiers. Quantifiers are most, many, few, all, some. Qualifiers are mostly, exclusively, only, never, seldom, can, may, might, would, could, should. All these words which define the modality of a statement are very, very, very important in CR questions, in inference questions. Would, could, should, may, might, many, some, few, all. Double check them. Double check the modality. Pay attention to the quantifiers, qualifiers, both in the passage and in the options. Approach for main idea and summary based questions. Do not proceed without stance and conclusion. Identify the stance statement, identify the conclusion statement before you look at the answer choices. What are the different styles of writing? Remember all those comprehensive classes. Different styles of writing are argumentative style of writing, where author claims. Prescriptive style of writing, where author suggests, recommends a solution to a problem. Prescriptive. Third, narrative style of writing. Events, incidents. Expository style of writing. A difficult process, mechanism, phenomena is explained. Expository, explanation. Finally, descriptive. Salient features are discussed. Descriptive style of writing. For fact check questions, paraphrasing is the key. Superimpose what you have identified as the answer statement upon one of the answer choices. Critical reasoning fundamentals. If X then Y is not the same as if not X then not Y. डिफॉरेस्टेशन हुआ तो हाथी अग्रेसिव हो गए. What can be inferred from the passage? डिफॉरेस्टेशन नहीं हुआ होता तो हाथी अग्रेसिव नहीं होते. Wrong. If X then Y is not inferable as if not X then not Y. Maybe, maybe not का केस हो सकता है. Would be का केस नहीं. We don't know for sure whether this would have happened had X not happened. For application questions, always identify the variables and superimpose the variables on the options. Superimpose as in, if there are two variables, let's say X and Y, in the option, what is X parallel to, what is Y parallel to, superimpose. There should not be one less or one more variable in the option. If there is, option is wrong. Identify the variables, superimpose on the options. For weakening questions, always write down the to prove statement in equation form. क्या to prove है उसको लिख लेना. For parajumble questions, no slot fixing. This option, this statement seems to be an opener. This statement seems to be a conclusion. वो seems to be intuitive है. या इसके बाद ये अच्छा लग रहा है, इंट्यूटिव है. नो स्लॉट फिक्सिंग. वी ओनली डील इन टर्म्स ऑफ पेयर्स, नॉट इंडिविजुअल सेंटेंसेस. कॉन्क्रीट पेयर्स बनाने. सो ऑलवेज अप्रोच पैराजम्बल्स इन टर्म्स ऑफ कॉन्क्रीट पेयर्स एंड ऑर्डर्ड पेयर्स. व्हाट आर द इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग्स टू नोटिस? प्रोनाउंस. ही, शी, इट, दे, सच, आइदर, बोथ. Remember, pronouns are important in forming concrete pairs. He कौन है? Reference क्या है? Such, either, both. What is the reference? Next, transition words are important. What are transition words? However, but, yet, rather. Next, then, later. All these are transition words which tell you that the idea is progressing. Therefore, so, hence, these are important words. Also, even. He's also my friend. Also is important here in making a concrete pair. Previous sentence must have talked about another relation with you that this guy has. That's how anticipate. For parajumbles, always anticipate. अच्छा इससे पहले क्या आना चाहिए? Before you read all the sentences in one go. If you have a marker such as however, do some pre-thinking. Anticipate the next sentence or the previous sentence so that you have easily identifiable concrete pairs. You can easily identify them. Okay. Follow inverted pyramid. Broad idea first, narrow later, specific details later. Follow inverted pyramid, theme-based approach. Understand the importance of definite article the. The dog works, as basically a pronominal reference only. Definite article, the dog. Which dog? There must be some dog introduced in the previous sentence. Otherwise, would not use the dog. The is a specific article. Tenses in parajumbles play an important role. If there are two tenses involved, present tense and past tense, there has to be a transitionary sentence which brings the action from past to present or present to past. If you identify this, you can arrange the other sentences around it easily. It becomes a bridge sentence. So tense approach for parajumbles is also very effective, remember. For odd one out, first thing is to identify themes, individual themes. Correlate the themes. Identify the theme misfit. If you can't identify a theme misfit, other things to look for are tense, style of writing, point of view, author's point of view, third person point of view. टोन, पॉजिटिव टोन, नेगेटिव टोन। डोंट वरी, ये 3-4 वाला पीडीएफ में शेयर कर लूंगा तुम्हारे साथ। फॉर लास्ट डे ऑल्सो एक बार देखना होगा जाने से पहले, तो देख लेना आराम से कि दिस आर द थिंग्स टू कीप इन माइंड। डोंट राइट डाउन ये वाली सारी बातें, जस्ट सुन लो इनको। डन। सो ऑड वन, what matters in odd one out? Subject of discussion, scope of discussion. Sometimes one, a statement has a narrower scope than the other ones. It becomes too specific, therefore it is out of sequence. Sometimes it is too broad, others are specific, becomes out of sequence. Subject, scope, theme, tense, style, tone, and POV. These are important things to look out for. Finally, and deliberately I've kept this as the last pointer for VARC strategy. Process of elimination, the almighty process of elimination. Do not forget, there will be words which help you eliminate options coherently, rationally, concretely. No intuition involved. This word is categorically wrong. This word is explicitly wrong. Why? Too broad, too narrow, alien, extreme modifier. All bol diya, every bol diya, each bol diya. The passage does not go to that extreme. Other, twisted, factually distorted. Facts are being twisted, played around with. Counterfactual, opposite मार गया. अभी फंसे थे तुम अभी क्वेश्चन में कुछ लोग काउंटरफैक्चुअल में, वो बायोलॉजिकल लिंकेजेस वाला पैसेज के अंदर जो था, काउंटरफैक्चुअल आंसर में फंस गए थे सब लोग कि सर अगर वो होता तो the warlords who are physically weaker will still dominate. तो फिर biological linkages are not, shaping human behavior or human society. The question asks, if they shaped human society, तो क्या होता? This is contradictory. So counterfactual answer choices, especially when CR is involved, very common, trap. Therefore, इन सभी चीजों पर थोड़ा सा ध्यान देना पड़ेगा. Extreme, too broad, etc. Process of elimination. Always eliminate 3 options. Okay. Finally, last talk. General do's and don'ts. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है दोस्तों. And this is no pep talk. This is simply my experience that I am sharing with you. प्री एग्जाम क्या क्या करना है देख लो. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट सारी बातें. प्री एग्जाम विच मीन्स टुमारो 26th. आज का तो मैं होपफुली दिन निकल गया. आज तो जोमेटो करोगे नहीं, करोगे तो मत करना अभी. बैंड, प्रोहिबिटेड. Do not write a mock test after this class. Whoever is telling you to write a mock test, I don't want to say anything for that person. My silence should say it all. Do not, I have capitalized not for a reason. Do not write a mock test now. No matter how, how much of a compulsive urge you have, जितना मर्जी चुन लो, लिखना नहीं, mock test नहीं लिखना है. Do not eat outside food at all. No Zomato, no outside food, home baked food, home cooked food only. Trust me, every year I see people suffering from diarrhea, headache, cold, cough, something, this, that, on the D-Day. What does it take to throw 1 year of hard work to the dogs? It takes a Zomato delivery. And therefore, no Zomato, don't eat outside food. आज भी, अभी भी नहीं, कल भी नहीं, बिल्कुल भी नहीं. 27 को खाना आराम से, जितना मर्जी खाना परसों, अगर ज्यादा खाने का शौक है तो. For tomorrow, pre-exam, important guys. Go out with your friends. कल का एकदम चिल होना चाहिए दिन आपका, तुम्हारी भाषा में. Chilled out. Meditate if you do. Have fun, whatever your definition of fun is. I don't want to go into that. Whatever your definition of fun is, have fun. Sports, indoor sports, outdoor sports, going to the mall, shopping, whatever, hanging out with friends, having a drink or two, whatever. भाई इतना मत पीना कि सुबह का स्लॉट है परसों का उठे ही ना, उतना भी नहीं होना है. But whatever, you are sensible enough. Whatever your idea of fun is, have fun tomorrow. Meditate, listen to music, your favorite music. Read a good book. No heavy books, no psychology, nothing. Maybe just read a light, a fiction, something very light-hearted. A book of paradoxes and oxymorons, interesting book, funny book, anything. Or comics. Chacha Chaudhary Sabu, for all that I care for. So कुछ भी पढ़ो, but light पढ़ो, ठीक है? So go out for a movie if you enjoy watching movies anymore. I don't know क्या सीन चल रहा है आजकल OTT के बाद, but whatever. मैं तो पहले भी नहीं जाता था, अभी भी नहीं जाता. But if you like whatever your definition of fun is, have fun. कल का दिन बहुत लाइट रखना, कुछ नहीं करना है, ठीक है? Very important, sleep well. Keep yourself hydrated. ये लिखना भूल गया मैं. You might ask sir, पानी का क्या रोल है हमारे स्कोर में? भाई बहुत रोल है. तुम्हें पता नहीं कि हमारा बॉडी केमिस्ट्री में कितने % चेंजेस से भी पानी और पानी ही पानी है अपन, और कुछ है ही नहीं, पानी और मिट्टी अपन. In short, therefore sleep well and keep yourself hydrated tomorrow. When I say sleep well, I mean इतना सो कि परसों नींद ही ना है. समझ जाओ, चाहे कोई सा भी स्लॉट हो, परसों नींद ही ना है, ठीक है? सो इतना सो कल आराम से. This is important. Actual experience. Do not wear pockety uppers. If there's a word pockety, बनाया है मैंने. It's a neologism. There's no such word. Do not wear pockety uppers. उतरवा लेंगे. As I told you earlier, yes, no sweatshirt with pockets, no jackets with pockets. They will make you remove. The center is likely to. अब वो तुम्हारा सेंटर कैसा निकलता है अगर बहुत लीनियंट है अलग बात है, but don't take risks. No socks, no shoes, no jewelry, no bands, no कलावा, nothing. खाली हाथ आए थे, खाली हाथ जाएंगे, like literally. Read the admit card. Absolutely important point. Read all the instructions very carefully, follow them all, barring one. That one is to report 1.5 hours before the time slot. Do not arrive too soon, too early at the center. Why? Tiring. Waiting is tiring. It will exhaust you. You will not be in a mind space to write the exam after waiting for 2 hours. तो इतनी जल्दी नहीं पहुंचना है. Ideal time I suggest, I recommend 45 minutes. Plan accordingly. 45 minutes before the scheduled slot. Ideal है. अपने पास काफी बीच में गैप है, ग्रेस है, लेट वेट भी होंगे तो आधे घंटा पहले पहुंच जाएंगे, 20 मिनट पहले पहुंच जाएंगे, which is still sufficient. It is okay. Don't have to panic. Been there, done that many times. इसमें एक चीज रह गया, बेल्ट भी मत लगा कर जाना. And make sure you are not wearing loose jeans with the belts. बेल्ट उतरवा लेते हैं वो, उसके बाद जो होगा तुम्हारा होगा. So no belts. This is important. Now during the exam, देखो ऐसा है, जितना स्ट्रेस लेना था प्रिपरेशन के टाइम पे ले लिया. अब डी-डे है, मैच है. एंड जस्ट एज द डायलॉग गोज, वो है ना 70 मिनट, ये 70 मिनट तुमसे कोई नहीं छीन सकता. वही 120 मिनट होंगे तुम्हारे पास, सेम, और वो 120 मिनट कोई नहीं छीन सकता. Stressing over performance never leads to over performance. If at all, stress is a performance killer. Enjoy the act during the exam. Enjoy yourself the most. Trust me, if you enjoy yourself, you will perform. You might overperform yourself beyond your expectations. Enjoy करना बस, प्रेशर मत लेना. अब कर लिया जितनी मेहनत करनी थी. Do not pay unnecessary attention to nags. What does that mean? Sometimes we focus too much on चेयर बड़ी अनकंफर्टेबल है, माउस बड़ा अनकंफर्टेबल है, भाई सामने ना टाइमर चल रहा है, क्वेश्चन चल रहा है, उधर ध्यान दे दे. डू नॉट पे अननेसेसरी अटेंशन टू नैग्स. वी फीड ऑन नेगेटिविटी. दैट्स आवर ब्रेन, दैट्स आवर. फिर बाद में आके ब्लेम करने को मिल जाता है. सर मेरा तो प्रिपरेशन 99 परसेंटाइल वाला था, पता क्या है आपको सर? पता है हुआ क्या? मुझे सीट मिल गया वहां पर जहां पर दरवाजा खुल रहा था बार बार, एकदम दरवाजे के साथ आवाज आ रही थी सर, कॉन्सेंट्रेट नहीं कर पाया, इसलिए मेरा 70 परसेंटाइल आया, वरना मेरा प्रिपरेशन तो 99 परसेंटाइल वाला था. द फैक्ट ऑफ द मैटर इज विनर्स डोंट हैव एक्सक्यूजेस, एक्सक्यूजर्स नेवर विन. दीज आर नैग्स. इस पर बेकार पे ध्यान मत देना. कुछ भी हो रहा है छोटा मोटा वो होगा. सर्वर इशू हो सकता है, माउस में इशू हो सकता है, आपके नहीं चल रहा, चुपचाप से बोलो इन्विजिलेटर को भैया माउस रिप्लेस कर दो. अनलेस देयर इज अ बिग इशू के माउस बिल्कुल चल ही नहीं रहा, काम ही नहीं कर रहा, तो कुछ कर नहीं सकते हम. इन दैट केस ऑफ कोर्स यू हैव टू टेल द पर्सन देयर कि भाई ये रिप्लेस कर दो. चेक इट बिफोर हैंड. फिलहाल सब कुछ करके देख लेना उसमें कि चल रहा है अच्छे से, नहीं चल रहा, सब कुछ देख लेना, चेक कर लेना सब कुछ, ठीक है पहले ही. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट इज ऑल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट गाइज, स्पेशली डू नॉट पे अननेसेसरी अटेंशन to the beautiful girl sitting next to you. Eventually they all leave. Focus on the question on your screen. This is important guys. हो चुका है इसलिए बता रहा हूँ, मेरे साथ नहीं, बट मेरे को स्टूडेंट ने बताया था किसी ने, सर पता है सर ध्यान ही नहीं जा रहा था, इतनी सुंदर आगे लिटरली बता रहा है. मैंने को पागल है तू, अपना करियर सैक्रिफाइस करके आ गया, वो भी 2 मिनट की देखने के चक्कर में ना तेरे को. दे ऑल इवेंचुअली लीव. So therefore do not pay attention, however beautiful the person sitting next to you is. This is important. Do not try anything extraordinarily different on that day. तुम्हारे अंदर कुछ जाग जाता है कभी कभी कुछ लोगों के अंदर, आज कुछ मैं नया अप्रोच ट्राई करूंगा. भाई कैट इज नॉट, इट इज द फाइनल मैच, इट्स द वर्ल्ड कप. यू डोंट ट्राई इन द वर्ल्ड कप फाइनल्स. Even if you are flopping, it's okay. Stick with the known approach. Known devils are always better than unknown devils. Whatever strategy you have framed now, अभी तक जो बन गया तुम्हारा, no more changes to that strategy. जो कुछ भी बन चुका है वो उसी के साथ जाना है अपने को. Whatever you think suits you the best. Passage first, question first, VA first, RC first, whatever it is. Confidence is more important. If you feel confident adopting that approach, go in with that approach. Do not try something extraordinarily different जो आज तक किया ही नहीं तुमने try. Don't do that on that D-Day, okay? Stick with the basics. What are the basics? 120 मिनट से ऊपर किसी को टाइम नहीं देना. थिंक इन टर्म्स ऑफ वैल्यू प्रोपोजिशन, टाइम मैनेजमेंट, वैल्यू प्रोपोजिशन. क्या 120 मिनट से ऊपर वैल्यू है इस क्वेश्चन की? नहीं है. उसके बाद मार्क्स भी देगा तो क्या देगा? इट्स नॉट एडिंग एनीथिंग, राइट? थिंक लॉजिकली एंड प्रोसेस ऑफ एलिमिनेशन. स्टिक विद द बेसिक्स. नो इंट्यूशन. नहीं आ रहा है छोड़ दो. रिमेंबर 24 क्वेश्चंस कभी भी होने नहीं है और कभी भी करने नहीं है. Even the mentors do not attempt all 24 questions. Not all of us. और वो हम करते हैं तो ईगो में करते हैं कि हाँ इस बार तो 72 लाख है, मुझे मार्केटिंग करनी है, 100% टाइलर से पढ़ो. कैट क्लासेस बाय 100% टाइलर. तुम्हें नहीं देनी ना, तुम्हारा कोई प्लान तो नहीं है इस इंडस्ट्री में आने का, ऑलरेडी बहुत सैचुरेटेड है इंडस्ट्री. देयरफॉर तुम्हें नहीं चाहिए 24 क्वेश्चन. ऑल यू नीड इज 15, 16, 18 गुड क्वेश्चन, दैट्स इट. सो कभी फाइट है ही नहीं 24 का. डोंट रन एंड डू नॉट सेट एनी आर्बिट्ररी स्टैंडर्ड्स, आर्बिट्ररी एम कि यार मैं 18 क्वेश्चंस करके ही आऊंगा. नहीं. बी एन ओपन बोर्ड, बी स्मार्ट, बी लॉजिकल, दैट्स इट. वन क्वेश्चन एट अ टाइम. डू नॉट ओवर थिंक, डू नॉट बी ओवर एम्बिशियस कि इतना करना है उतना करना है, कुछ नहीं. बी क्विक इन डिसीजन मेकिंग बट नॉट क्विक इन सॉल्विंग द क्वेश्चन. गिव इट्स ड्यू टाइम. डिसीजन मेकिंग फास्ट होना चाहिए, क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करना फास्ट नहीं होना चाहिए. डोंट बी इन अ हेस्ट. इंपॉर्टेंट. नेक्स्ट थिंग इंपॉर्टेंट, zoom in, zoom out. When I say zoom in, zoom out, I mean physically, like this, ऐसे स्क्रीन के क्लोज, एकदम वर्ड्स पे कॉन्सेंट्रेट करते हुए. एंड देन पीछे. If you can't focus, that helps you a lot. Tried and tested approach. Sometimes what happens is my mind is wandering here and there. I can't focus on the passage, on the words. सब ऐसा लग रहा है पढ़ रहा हूँ, आंखें चल रही हैं, but the brain is not processing information. So moving physically, zooming in and zooming out physically changes your eye brain coordination. So it helps you, it helps your brain find your sweet spot. जहां पर तुम्हारा brain active हो गया, start processing the information. थोड़ा आगे पीछे होकर देखो. Or else, second approach, close your eyes for 30 seconds. Breathe consciously. When I say breathe consciously, focus on your breath. Inhalation, exhalation, 30 seconds. और सिर्फ 30 सेकंड के लिए भूल जाना पेपर को, एकदम ड्रॉप द पेपर फॉर 30 सेकंड. सिंपली ड्रॉप इट इफ यू कांट फोकस, इफ यू कांट कॉन्सेंट्रेट. ड्रॉप इट फॉर 30 सेकंड्स. एब्सोल्युटली. ये सब चीजें हो सकती है, मैं बता रहा हूं ऑलरेडी, होती हैं हर किसी के साथ. बट हाउ यू नो, यू शुड बी रेजिलिएंट, यू शुड नो हाउ टू रिबाउंड. सिंपल सी बात है. हाउ यू रिबाउंड इज इंपॉर्टेंट. 40 मिनट्स में टाइम हमारे पास कम है. सो ट्राइड एंड टेस्टेड अप्रोचेस. 30 सेकंड्स, क्लोज योर आईज, drop the thought of paper, drop the thought of cat, drop everything, and for 30 seconds only concentrate on deep breathing, deep inhalation, deep exhalation. 30 seconds. It will, you know, it will help you gain your focus back. After 30 seconds, open and start again. Simple. बस उस 30 सेकंड के लिए सब कुछ ड्रॉप कर देना. कुछ नहीं निकल रहा 30 सेकंड में, कोई तुम्हारे मार्क्स नहीं फालतू बनने वाले. And remember, if it is difficult, there's no need to be scared. Rather be happy, celebrate. If it is difficult, it is good. You have prepared. All the unprepared candidates are going out because they will over attempt and they will attempt the difficult questions for you. You do not make the same mistake of attempting difficult question. Limit your attempts. If it is difficult, limit your attempts. Do not over attempt. बस ये ध्यान रखना. Easy है तो एकदम चलो, फटाफट चलो. But careless mistakes मत करो उधर भी. But अगर difficult है, question selection is all the more important. ये सारी बातें और ज्यादा जरूरी हो जाएंगी. And celebrate that it is difficult rather than be scared. Okay. Finally, let it not domino. You understand domino effect? ये मत होने देना यार. I don't know whether you know this or not.
नहीं पता सर.
Even if you, अच्छा, domino. Basically it's one thing leading to another in a chain of events. तो एक VRC खराब हुआ, अब मेरा ध्यान सारा उसी पे है यार. खराब तो गया पेपर, साथ में DI आ चुका है, DILR आ चुका है, चल रहा है साथ में, क्वांट आ रहा है, वो मेरा ध्यान अभी भी VRC पे अटका हुआ हूं मैं. आई एम नॉट फोकसिंग ऑन द नेक्स्ट सेक्शन. एंड विद इन द सेक्शन ऑल्सो एक क्वेश्चन खराब गया, पीछे वाला नहीं निकल रहा. 2 हो गए, 6 हो गए, 7 हो गए, 17 पढ़े, उन पे ध्यान नहीं जाएगा. 17 क्वेश्चन विच स्टिल रिमेन, नहीं 7 पे ध्यान जाएगा. 7 नहीं निकले मुझसे, अब तो गया मैं. नहीं, लेट इट नॉट डोमिनो. इट इज ओके. आई डोंट नो वेदर यू नो दिस और नॉट. इवन इफ यू परफॉर्म ब्रिलियंटली ऑन 2 sections and decently on 1 section, you can still score a 99+ percentile. तो एक खराब भी हो गया तो खुद को ये ध्यान रखना, अरे एक खराब हुआ है, 99 तो मैं अभी भी ला सकता हूँ. रिमेंबर दैट. ठीक है. ऑलवेज. सो लेट इट नॉट डोमिनो. 1 question at a time, 1 section at a time. एक क्वेश्चन स्क्रीन पे, उसी के बारे में सोचना है. फॉलो दिस रूल. आउट ऑफ साइट, आउट ऑफ माइंड. सुना है ना? ठीक है. सो आउट ऑफ साइट, आउट ऑफ माइंड. And my popular analogy, आज लास्ट क्लास है, आज I can afford to be a little less decorous than I have been throughout this series. So understand. देखो भाई, रीडिंग इज लाइक लव मेकिंग. बहुत बढ़िया से इस बात को समझ लेना. रीडिंग जो है एकदम, इट्स लाइक लव मेकिंग. यू आर यंग पीपल and I do not want to get into your personal histories, but I'm sure we are all adults here and we understand. If you can't enjoy the process, you can't perform. Reading a passage is simply like love making. If you're not enjoying it, if you're not basically, you know, if you're frustrated with the subject, if you're frustrated with the subject, क्या philosophy आ गया यार ये? How can you ever score? And here my words will obviously have two different meanings because I'm drawing an analogy here. So if you can't enjoy the process, you can't perform. Get involved. Love thy subject. Second thing, there will always be your competitors, other people. It is still part of the analogy. When you are into the act of reading the passage, just as you are into the act of lovemaking, there could always be your competitors. And though the fittest will eventually survive, during the act, you can't afford to think of the competition and compare your performance, because stress is a killer. You will end up killing your performance. Just enjoy. Don't set any arbitrary standards. Finally, if the relationship is becoming toxic, what do I mean by toxicity? If the relationship is becoming toxic, you are spending too much, but the subject is not giving you back. It's not reciprocating. It's a toxic relationship. Understand, be humble. You can't master them all. Therefore, let it go. Leaving is the right thing to do there. Know when to move on. Finally, trust me, your parents don't care how you perform. This is still the part of that analogy. ये ध्यान रख लेना, जब भी आए ना अरे पेरेंट्स क्या बोलेंगे, बहुत बार प्रेशर होता है. They don't care how you perform. You are doing it for yourself. You should enjoy the act. Plus, they should not, rather, they don't care and they should not care. It's you who has to. Many times I see people, sir, pressure बहुत था. Sir, parents क्या करेंगे? Sir, शादी का pressure. It happens, I'm not being a sexist here, but it happens mostly with girls also. Sir, अगर नहीं हुआ तो इस साल ये हो जाएगा, शादी का pressure बन जाएगा, वो बन जाएगा. That is why this important point, guys. If you are convinced, they will eventually be convinced, trust me. It's you who is not convinced, and that is why. So parental pressure लेके कुछ नहीं होने वाला. ये तुम्हारा खुद का insecurity है जो तुम project कर रहे हो किसी और पर. That is what you are doing. Your parents, your relatives, your friends, parental or peer pressure, in any case, can't make you perform better. It can't make you perform better. Therefore, in any case, it is your act. Enjoy the act. Nobody else has a say. सारा प्रेशर कुकर मत बनना वहां पर. करियर का क्या होगा नहीं पता, एमबीए कॉलेज मिलेगा नहीं पता, लाइफ में कुछ कर पाएंगे नहीं पता, पेरेंट्स क्या बोलेंगे नहीं पता, शादी होगा नहीं होगा नहीं पता, करियर प्रोग्रेशन प्रमोशन होगा नहीं पता. क्या पता है? एक क्वेश्चन है जो मुझसे पूछ रहा है, विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग वुड वीकन द आर्ग्यूमेंट. सिर्फ उतना पता है कि आर्ग्यूमेंट क्या है और वीकन कैसे करना है. उस टाइम के लिए सिर्फ इतना पता है. दैट्स इट. दैट इज व्हाट वी मीन बाय फोकस. नो प्रेशर गाइस. And after the exam, remember, ultimately CAT or any other exam is just a means to an end. And I highlight the article a. It is just a means to an end. It is neither the means, the only means, nor the end, ever. So it is okay. We have done what we could. It's a milestone that we have to achieve. कर लेंगे अच्छा, नहीं तो या तो दोबारा करेंगे या किसी और रास्ते से पहुंच जाएंगे. एक जगह पे पहुंचने के रास्ते बहुत हैं. कौन सा धीरू भाई अंबानी एमबीए था. So post exam have this mindset. Do not overthink कि क्या होगा. And finally, all you need is how many seats. तुम्हें कितनी सीट चाहिए? बहुत बार लोग आकर मुझे बोलते हैं, सर IIFT में तो बहुत कम सीट्स है, 20. मैंने कहा तुझे कितनी चाहिए? 20. तुझे तो एक चाहिए, तू एक देखना. और तेरे पास एग्जाम्स कितने हैं? rather than see how many seats are available in a particular college, see how many exams are available for you, and you only need one seat. Exact है, NMAT है, SNAP है, IFT है, TIS है, CAT है, CMAT. भयंकर एग्जाम है भाई. स्ट्राइक रेट इतना तो हमारा, इतनी अगर मेहनत करिए, खुद पे भरोसा रखो, इतना तो स्ट्राइक रेट होगा कि एक तो सीट स्ट्राइक करेंगे. पर ऐसा नहीं होता, कहीं ना कहीं तो जाएंगे. सो इट्स ओके, जस्ट परफॉर्म, एंजॉय द एक्ट, एंजॉय द डी डे गाइस. That's it from my side. Any questions? कोई दुख दर्द हो बांट सकते हैं off the record.